So join us as we go on the doctor.
Deluxe apartments in the sky. This used to be a working class part of the city. If you want to learn more about the history of the West End, there's a really great free museum on the left, the appropriately titled West End Museum. Directly up in front of us is an iPhone billboard. It's not that important. But when we go by it, look at the building it's attached to on the left. Notice how narrow this building is when viewed from the side. Tiny little apartment building. It's known as the last tenement house of the West End. Now this neighborhood used to be filled with buildings just like that. But in the 1960s, they tore them all down. All of them, except for that one. People still live there to this day. Now on our right, we are going to highway. Wasn't very express. Caused traffic jams from first thing in the morning till the sun went down at night. The new highway underground. They also built a new tunnel to the airport, the Ted Williams Tunnel, named for Red Sox legend Ted Williams. And finally, they connected the highway underground with the rest of the interstate by building the Leonard Seacon Bridge. And that's what the big dig was. Used to work at Boston Duck Tours. They got tar jail. Not as much fun. But if you go to Freedom Trail, which is a walking tour you can do while you're here in Boston, we even give you a map of the entire tour route with the names and location 1830, the same year as Boston. It was also founded by the Puritans, just like Boston. But back in 1630, the Puritans didn't call their new town Cambridge, they called it Newtown, because it was a town and it was new, and the Puritans weren't very good at naming things. Now, I've said some mean things about the Puritans on tour today. They weren't good at naming things. They were hypocrites when it came to religious freedom. They murdered Mary Dyer. All bad stuff. But there's one good thing I can say about the Puritans, and it's this. They really valued education. They thought everyone should be able to read. And back in the 1600s, the Puritans, they were some of the most literate, most well-educated people anywhere in the world. In the year 1635, the Puritans opened the first public school in what would become the United States over in Boston. It's called Boston Latin. Boston Latin still exists to this day. It's considered to be one of the best public high schools anywhere. Educational center with a great college in it, Cambridge, England, where the University of Cambridge is. And that's how Newtown became Cambridge, Massachusetts. Now we are heading towards a bridge. It's called the Longfellow of the American Revolution. The Longfellow wrote the poem. It was super popular. And now everybody knows Paul Revere as the guy who shouted, "The British are coming! The British are coming!" Of course, Paul Revere never actually shouted, "The British are coming," for a few reasons. First of all, back in 1775, everyone was still British. Wouldn't make sense to yell, "The British are coming." It'd be like today if we were driving around yelling, "The Bostonians are coming! The Bostonians are coming!" There'd be some townie out on the sidewalk, and they'd be like, "Yeah, kid, we're already here." What are you, the suburbs or something? Now, Paul Revere was also not shouting in the night. He was going door-to-door knocking, letting people know that the regulars were on the march. That's what they called the British soldiers back then. The regulars. All a regular? Dunkin' Donuts coffee with cream and sugar. That's a regular. Now, Paul Revere did a lot of stuff. Had wooden shingles that would leak whenever it would rain. Paul Revere provided copper to go over the dome to keep it from leaking. And eventually, the copper was replaced with gold. If we look off to our left, we will see the gold dome of the Massachusetts State House up on top of Beacon Hill. And that is nearly 23 karat gold up there. Nearly pure gold. But it's only a thin layer of gold up on top of the State House. All that gold up there only weighs 13 pounds. Very thin layer of gold on top of the State House. Now we're going to go underneath the Longfellow Bridge. The bridge has a nickname. It's called the Salt and Pepper Bridge because this bridge is very well seasoned. Boom, that's a cooking joke from the chef. Now it's called the Salt and Pepper Bridge because if you look up at the towers on top of the bridge, they look like salt and pepper shakers. MIT, one of the best science and engineering schools anywhere in the world. And did you know that over 40 NASA astronauts have gone to MIT? Most famously, Buzz Aldrin, the second man to walk on the moon. Now let's say you can't get an MIT, you can't become a NASA astronaut. You know what's another great way to see some stars? Tell Buzz Aldrin you think the moon landing was fake. Punch in the face, you'll see some stars. In the Back Bay skyline, we got 3 really tall buildings. The building furthest to the right, that's One Dalton Place, 3rd tallest building in the city of Boston. The building next to it with the antenna on top, that's the Prudential Tower, 2nd tallest building in the city of Boston. And the last really tall building in the Back Bay skyline is the John Hancock Tower, tallest building in New England, 790 feet tall, and there's over 10,000 reflective windows on the outside of the John Hancock Tower. We saw them up close and personal when we drove by and whacked it ourselves. Now you might notice that there's some sailboats out on the river right now. Those sailboats come from this boathouse over on the right. It's called Community Boating. Community Boating is a non-profit organization that's been here since the 1930s. They'll teach anybody in the community how to sail, but they really like teaching kids. And they don't turn any child away. So a kid can learn to sail at Community Boating for as little as $1 a summer. It's a sliding scale based on their family's income. Very cool non-profit Community Boating. Now as we come out from underneath the bridge, on our left, there are these carvings on the side of the bridge. Those carvings are Viking ships. Why are there Viking ships on a bridge in Boston, Massachusetts? As we all know, Vikings are from Minnesota. Now, when they built this bridge in the early 1900s, there was a theory that Vikings were the first Europeans to sail the Charles River. The theory was made popular by a Harvard professor. I don't know why anybody listened to him though, because he wasn't a historian or archaeologist. He was a chemistry teacher. Now, on the Cambridge side of the river, this is East Cambridge. Say East Cambridge is filled with high-tech companies. But this used to be a very industrial part of the city. It's filled with factories, glass factories, paint factories, even... Pretty good for off the cuff. Now, what do they have in the New England Aquarium? They got this 40-foot ocean tank. It's so large, they had to build the tank first, and then built the aquarium around it. That ocean tank is filled with sharks, and stingrays, and sea turtles, including Myrtle the turtle, the mascot of the New England Aquarium. For sale. Just parked on the island. Can we do that? Not on it, but like next to it. Nobody get hit by a car. Now, what was it? Oh, if you had your photo taken by Photogenics, those would be available for sale. If anybody wants to take a picture with me, I would gladly pose for pictures with you in front of the duck. We'll take selfies.